Most people think Hopewell is just one town. If you're not from Mercer County, you don't understand that. But in the reality of what it is, it's two distinct municipalities, and there's Pennington, so there could be three that you can consider part of Hopewell. So if you don't understand that before buying here, you can easily end up in the wrong area. In this video, I'm going to break down the top things you need to know before moving to Hopewell, from how the towns are structured, to the schools, the housing, the commute, and why so many buyers looking at Princeton end up here instead. Welcome to the Wilton Report. I'm Josh Wilton, and I co-own and run the #1 boutique real estate company here in central New Jersey, Queenston Realty. And I've helped thousands of families buy and sell real estate locally, which has given me a front row seat into helping you make the best purchase decisions for your home. By the end of this video, you'll understand whether Hopewell actually fits your lifestyle, your commute, and the type of home you might be looking for. The first thing you need to know about Hopewell is something that surprises a number of people. It's not actually one place, it's several. So let's start there. Hopewell is actually two different municipalities. So there's Hopewell Township and there's Hopewell Borough, right? Then there's also Pennington Borough, which feeds into the Hopewell School District. So you could say Hopewell is comprised of three different municipalities. Each has its own housing stock, each has its own taxes, and definitely has its own vibe. Hopewell Borough is a small, historic downtown. Pennington is a very cute, very walkable downtown area. Great pizza at Vito's Pizza, by the way. And suburban neighborhoods, everything from a condo to large mansions in the borough. And Hopewell Township can be rural. Like, it is absolutely one of the most rural, with some of the most breathtaking farms and estates in the area. So when people say Hopewell, they usually mean Hopewell Township, but again, it could mean a few different things. So Hopewell feels very different than Princeton. It feels very different than West Windsor. It feels different than Plainsboro. The closest proximity to what Hopewell feels like is probably Montgomery Township. So when you're in Hopewell Township, expect preserved land, expect farms, expect rolling hills, expect wooded lots. The majority of the township has pretty large lot sizes for the most part. There are a lot of quieter residential areas. There's a few newer subdivisions in the Brandon Farm area off Route 31 where it's a little more dense. Some townhouses in there, a fair number of townhouses. A lot of the land outside of that corridor is permanently preserved. So Hopewell's done an incredible job of preserving farmland, which keeps the area from being overly developed. So you're trading, to a certain extent, depending where you are in Hopewell. If you're on the western side towards Titusville, right, you're trading immediate convenience for open space and privacy. If you're in the Route 31 corridor in Brandon Farms, right, you're in a townhouse community with shopping, schools, community centers, everything else. So you really have an amazing gamut of diversity in Hopewell Township. And in Hopewell Township, the schools are very strong. They're just a little bit smaller. So Hopewell is served by the Hopewell Valley Regional School District, which includes Hopewell Township, Hopewell Borough, and Pennington Borough. So the key points about it is a very strong academic reputation. If you go to niche.com and look them up, you can see they're one of the top school districts in the state. It is a smaller district, meaning it has a fewer number of students and a very good student-teacher ratio as compared to other districts. And again, I'd say Hopewell, from a school district perspective, has a very tight-knit community feel. So families moving for the good schools, right? I would say perhaps without the over-intensity of a Princeton or a Montgomery or a West Windsor. However, if you're commuting to Philadelphia or New York, which so many of our colleagues here in Mercer County do, Hopewell does not have a train station, right? So most commuters from Hopewell that are taking the train, they'll go to the Hamilton train station. Some, depending where they are in the township, will go to the Princeton Junction train station. Some will go to the Trenton train station. It just depends where they are in Hopewell Township or Hopewell Borough. So again, a typical commute time to New York City can be 1.5 to 2 hours for sure from Hopewell. People do it every day. Hopefully telecommuting has helped them out. Philadelphia is a little bit easier. Literally can be minutes from the Delaware River, depending what part of Hopewell you're in. So Hopewell to drive to Philadelphia can be 45 minutes, maybe 60 minutes if you're going downtown Center City. So Hopewell is a little more car dependent from a commuting perspective than Princeton or West Windsor or Plainsboro. It's more in line with Montgomery Township, which is more car dependent than the other municipalities as well. So housing stock is very different than Princeton. So Hopewell Township homes tend to be a little bit larger and you get more for your money. So you get a larger house at a much smaller price per square foot, which is one of the leading indicators of where a home is valued. There's a lot of colonials. There's a lot of farmhouses. There are townhouse developments, as I mentioned, Brandon Farms, which is a huge, super dense townhouse development. And Lennar Builders has a brand new subdivision, two of them, as a matter of fact, going in on Hopewell. But again, Hopewell, I think the township was very strategic. They kept the density in a couple of areas on the Route 31 corridor, right off the 295 corridor, and it let the rural aspect of Hopewell stay rural. So it sort of prevented the overdevelopment from spilling out, and they kept that new construction in dense areas. So you'll see dense neighborhoods, but far fewer than West Windsor, far fewer than Plainsboro, obviously less than Princeton as well. But historic character. So Hopewell Borough, right, is one of the most quintessentially charming towns in the area. If you have not been there and you live locally, you should go. If you're house hunting and you're coming out to Mercer County for a weekend, go to Hopewell Borough. You will fall in love. It's an absolute throwback. There are great restaurants. The first Nomad Pizza was in Hopewell Borough. The Borough Bean, which is a coffee shop, Brick Farm Market, and Chubby's Luncheonette is an absolute must go. It's probably the best breakfast I've ever had at Chubby's Luncheonette. And there's great small businesses. So there's the Bear in the Books. There's Gallery 14, which is fine art and photography. There's Homefront, which has a resale store. So people donate furniture and you can buy and consign furniture. There's a liquor store. There's an antique store. There's a throwback pharmacy. It feels like you're in 1945. It's called Hopewell Pharmacy. So there's a bunch of different things in Hopewell. Sauerland Cycles, if you're a cyclist, it's one of the premier cycling shops in probably the state, if not the county. So again, just a lot of amazing different things that are available to you in the borough. And it's got historic homes and it's walkable. It's got a library. It's got a theater. So it's really a super cute neighborhood to be part of. Prices are lower than Princeton, but they're still competitive. So comparatively, you know, I would say it's probably a third cheaper. It's not half cheaper, but it's probably a third cheaper than Princeton. So what's a buyer motivation? Why would somebody move to Hopewell? Obviously, they get much more house. So if you have a lot of kids and you need a bigger house and you can't afford Princeton, Hopewell's a slam dunk. Like good schools, right? If you're staying locally from a commuting perspective, or you only go to New York a couple days a week, Hopewell is an absolute slam dunk for that. They have access to the Princeton job market. They have access to the train lines. But, you know, Princeton or Montgomery might be a little too expensive, or you just have desire for more land and space. So you can drive through Hopewell. You feel like you are in rural Ireland when you're driving through some parts of Hopewell Township. However, because it's competitive, inventory tends to be limited. Some of the inventory is on septic versus well versus public sewer. So you have to kind of make a decision of what type of lifestyle you want. A lot of the land is on well versus public water. So again, public desirable homes sell very quickly. You just have to decide lifestyle-wise where you want to be and what you want to deal with. So the other part of Hopewell Township, I think it's, like I said, it has one of the #1 cycling shops in the state. It's smack at the base of the Sauerland Mountain Preserve. It has the Delaware and Round Canal trails. You can cut up to Lambertville and Hopewell, which are two of the premier river towns in New Jersey. You're literally 20 minutes, 15 minutes from there, depending where you are. It's got farms, it's got orchards, it's got cycling routes. So it's got a great outdoor vibe and lifestyle. It's got great hiking. So if you want to have the Princeton buzz and the Princeton culture and be close to the downtown Princeton, which is its own energy, and it is a high energy town, but you want like a low key house or low key area, Hopewell is aces. Like it's aces. So again, there are large developments that are rare. I would consider them rare in Hopewell, but they're condensed. They're squished in. Lennar is in a specific area. Brandon Farms is right off Route 31. So again, it lends itself to stability where you don't see a lot of change in the more residential neighborhoods in Hopewell. It attracts a very specific buyer. So, you know, it tends to attract people who want space, quiet, good schools, a slower pace of life. It's less about being in the center of everything and more having a quality, healthy lifestyle and having that proximity to restaurants and McCarter Theater and all the other things that Princeton offers. So the main takeaway is this: Hopewell attracts a very specific type of buyer. You have the folks who want to be in Brandon Farms, want to be in a townhouse, want to be close to transportation. And then you have people who literally want to be in the country. They want to be on a farm. They want to be on a gentleman's farm, as they call it. They want to be on a farmlet. They want to be in a cul-de-sac colonial with 3 acres and a pool and a sauna and a cold plunge and all those things that people have in their backyards these days. So they want space, quiet, strong schools, slower pace of life, but they want to be in driving distance of Princeton, New York, or Philadelphia. I was actually talking with a customer yesterday who lives in Hopewell, and he said, you know, I worked my whole life to almost get off the grid. Hopewell is as close as I could get to being off the grid and still having the job that I have. He's got a pretty big job. So it's a really interesting place to live. So if you're researching Mercer County, we've done full deep dives on Princeton, Montgomery, West Windsor. So be sure to check out those videos after this one. If you haven't hit subscribe to the channel, hit the subscribe button. As always, thank you for tuning in. I'm Josh Wilton. This is the Wilton Report, and I'll see you next time.